Okay, we are live here on the Pace Happiest Hour. I'm joined today by Sarah Jarosz. Sarah, you've got a brand new song you're going to play for us today. Very excited about that, but so good to have you.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
So, Sarah, this is going to be your first album in about 4 years. The single's called Johnny. Can you tell us a little bit about the album?
Yeah, the album is called World on the Ground, and it's coming out June 5th. And I'm really, really proud of these songs and this album. And I worked on it with producer John Leventhal, who's one of
A
my music
legend.
heroes, a legend, exactly. He had been at the top of my list of dream producers for a long time. And, the music that he made with Sean Colvin and Mark Cohn and Roseanne Cash and just so much music that he's worked on is some of my favorites. So it was a dream come true getting to work with him. And yeah, I can't wait for it to be out and for people to hear it.
So it's been 4 years. You've not been idle during that time. You had I'm With Her, which won some Grammys. You've uh, been collaborating with a lot of people. Um, why now, and what was sort of behind the writing and recording of this record?
Yeah, it's funny to think about it as 4 years since my last album because it doesn't feel that long in the sense that I feel like I've kind of kept because of I'm With Her and the record that we made, which came out in 2018. Um, I've pretty much been releasing records almost every 2 years, if you include that one in there. So I definitely don't feel that I ever stopped working or making music. But I will say that it was such a gift and great timing to be able to shift gears into that band after my last record came out. And I think we were all kind of in a place, um, musically where we were ready to shift our focus from our solo things and collaborate and get inspired and be a part of a team. But then, after 2 full years of touring that band, basically, I think we were all really excited to work on our solo stuff again too. So it's kind of a healthy balance in that way. I felt super rejuvenated and inspired from spending so much time with them that when I came back to working on this record and writing these songs, I felt really ready in a way that I don't think if I had just after Undercurrent, if I had just gone straight into making another Sarah Jarosz record, I don't know that I would have been quite as inspired as I was going into this one. And I think, a lot of it stemmed from the first meeting with John Leventhal when I actually sat down with him in New York. He has a studio in Chelsea, in Manhattan, where a home studio, and that's where we made the whole record. And when we sat down for the first time, and I played him some of the songs I had been working on, he encouraged me to kind of look outside myself a little bit and just take kind of more of a storytelling approach almost to my songs. And that kind of opened the floodgates when he said that. And I really kind of shifted my focus back to Texas and the landscape there growing up in Wimberley. And that sort of led the way for a lot of these songs.
Yeah, well, the idea of perspective outside yourself. It's called World on the Ground. Beautiful cover with the two birds on the cover, and the idea of their perspective looking down on this world, I think is very, very cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, that the cover art was done by an artist named Aaron E. Murray, who is from Virginia. And it's cool because my parents bought me that paint. I have the actual painting. It's on
Oh,
a
cool.
canvas about this big. And they bought it for me a long time ago in Provincetown, Massachusetts. We were traveling and I saw it and fell in love with the painting immediately. And it was kind of a special gift from them in the sense that it was the first real piece of artwork that I ever owned. And it's been sitting on my mantle in my apartment in New York ever since. And when I was kind of trying to think about what I wanted the cover of this album to be, I was actually leaving, like literally walking out my door to head to the airport, and it kind of caught my eye. And I was like, that's the cover. It's a perfect square shape. And thankfully, Aaron was super stoked to have it be the cover. And yeah, I'm really pleased. I feel like it goes along with the music in
That's
a great way.
fantastic. So, are you in New York now? Or are you back in Texas?
I'm actually in Nashville right
Okay.
now. I thankfully have been able to be here. My boyfriend lives here, and I was in New York on March 13th, and I was
Mhm.
supposed to be flying to a gig that day. I was checked in for my flight and everything, and then that's obviously when everything started getting crazy and the gig was canceled. And I just had this feeling like, because my person is here, and I kind of, it was palpable in the city at that point. And so I'm very thankful that I was actually able to come down here, and I've been quarantined here ever since.
Yeah.
So I'm sending my love out to all my friends and people in New York, because it's not an easy time to be anywhere, but especially
Particularly there right now.
yeah.
Yeah. But it's just tough on everybody right now, being quarantined, not being able to get together, particularly musicians. But I think of a musician like you who so much of what you do is collaborative and playing with others. And are you able to keep connected to everybody and feel like Nashville is sort of rallying around each other?
A little bit. I feel like, at least speaking for myself, I had to get over a bit of a hump of kind of just fighting this kind of change to the virtual, sharing music in a virtual way. And um, because I just truly miss being in a room with my friends and singing with them face to face, and also with audiences. But I think in the last week, it's been good to kind of wrap my head around it and realize that thankfully we even have this technology in the first place to be able to share music and art with each other right now, because it would be really bleak if we didn't even have that. So I'm coming around to it, and I'm figuring out ways to stay inspired. And thankfully, I'm very lucky that my boyfriend is a bass player, and we can sit here and play music together. And that's something that's, you know, filled the days with a lot of joy. Kind of working up other people's songs that we love and playing them. And so music is more important than ever. I know it sounds cliche to say, but I'm really feeling that way.
Well, we are thankful that you are joining us today to share that music with us, and you're going to play one song for us.
Yeah.
Johnny from the new album. You want to tell us a little bit about the song first?
Yeah. This was the first single from the record. It's the only song that's been released so far. There's actually another one coming out next Friday, May 1st, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, this one, Johnny, was really kind of the first song that I brought to the table with John, that he was kind of like, oh man, I'm on board. Like, I'm really into this songwriting and the chords and everything. And I think it was the song that I saw kind of in his eyes, like this spark of excitement and like, let's do this, and sort of feeling, as he said, like this simpatico vibe working together, and kind of having similar instincts in terms of what should serve the song. But the song, it's kind of the first. It's Johnny. It kind of in the sense that John was sort of encouraging me to be more of a storyteller. It originally started out kind of being about my mom and then my grandfather, and then there were kind of all these stories intermingling within the lyrics of this song. And I realized that for me, it made it more universal to put this name Johnny to it, which kind of came from, I was thinking about like a lot of old folk songs, like Johnny has gone for a soldier, and that name kind of comes up in a lot of old tunes. So that's how I landed on it. And yeah, I'll play it for you.
Great.
Johnny's on the back porch drinking red wine. He knows that it could be the very last time he raises the glass up to his lips, and I wonder, how could a boy from a little bay town grow up to be a man, fly the whole world round, and end back up on the same damn ground he started? You might not get what you paid for, you know that nothing's for sure, and an open heart looks a lot like the wilderness. Lately he's been thinking about the meaning of time. The small amount we're given must be some sort of crime, yet the little we have feels like too much most of the time. He takes another sip of that blood red wine, just waiting on the stars that will never align. A little love, a little love, a little light, and you'll be doing just fine. You might not get what you pay for, you know that nothing's for sure, and an open heart looks a lot like the wilderness. So open up your heart, take it out, and put it back in. Signs are all around you. You might not get what you pay for, you know that nothing's for sure, and an open heart looks a lot like the wilderness. You might not get what you pay for, you know that nothing's for sure, and an open heart looks a lot like the wilderness.
That is so great. Thank you so much.
Thank
One of
you.
one of the things I love about your music, and particularly a song like that, I could imagine a song like that getting recorded by Nirvana in 1992 or something. You know, it's like the melodies that you blend with this folk instrumentation feel very unique. What are you pulling from? What is sort of inspiring you as you're writing music?
Wow. Well, first of all, that's probably the best compliment anyone's ever given me. That my music sounds like Nirvana. That's awesome. Um, well, I mean, a lot of different stuff. Initially, when I was first getting into playing mandolin and kind of just a kid growing up, a lot of my favorite music was Nickel Creek and Gillian Welch and Tim O'Brien. And a lot of these, I was early on really drawn to people in the folk world who it was obvious that they placed equal importance in the singing and the songwriting and the playing of their instrument, And so that was kind of initially what got me. And then, I mean, there's so much, Dylan, Paul Simon, Joni Mitchell. And then more recently, I would say with this album, I was just kind of, since I was turning my focus anyways to Texas and, my time growing up there and the landscape and the people and the nature of growing up in a small town, I was really revisiting a lot of the Texas singer-songwriters that I grew up with my parents playing their records around the house, people like Nancy Griffith and, James McMurtry was a huge influence for me on the writing of this record, and Robert Earl Keen and Guy Clark and Sean Colvin. I feel like a lot of those songwriters and those songs were with these songs on this new record. That was kind of a big inspiration at this point.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you recorded in New York with John Leventhal. How did that relationship start, and how did you guys get connected?
I think we first met, I want to say 10 years ago, like roughly 10 years ago. He had actually played a guitar solo on my second record. Back in 2011, he overdubbed a solo from afar for my song Runaway. So that's John playing that electric guitar on that song. And so that was kind of the first thing that we did together, but we weren't actually in the studio together when it happened. But I was obviously so psyched that he did it. And from then on, we kind of just would run into each other at different concerts in New York and Nashville. And I think a big turning point for me was actually the last time that I'm With Her played on the Americana Music Awards. Our sound check time was right before John and Roseanne. And so, they showed up and we were kind of hanging out during sound check. And I remember John was music directing Roseanne's song on that show. And it was the first time that I was in the same room kind of getting to watch him work with other musicians. And I think there were strings and he was playing piano and there was a full band. And it was just really, I loved the way that he directed the musicians. And I think that was kind of the moment when I obviously love all of his recorded music, but just seeing him actually in the moment work, talking to musicians and how he communicated, that was all right, I want to work with this person for sure. And thankfully, we met at his studio a couple times to kind of go over songs and make sure that the vibe was right. So that was, I think, December 2018 was when we sat down for the first time. And then almost a year ago, May of 2019 was when I thought that we were just starting demos, and he's sneaky that way. We were actually just starting the record.
That's great. So there's a lot of love coming from the comments section here, and a lot of discussion of all the different instruments you play. What do you play on the new record?
I am playing a lot of stuff. Basically the majority of the record is just me and John kind of overdubbing a lot of different things. I played a bunch of his guitars. I don't think I actually played any of my own guitars on the record. He has a plethora of unbelievable guitars. So I would actually have to I played so many of his guitars that I can't even keep them straight in my brain at this point. But I also played my Fletcher Brock octave mandolin on a couple songs. And then he actually has this bouzouki that I played on a tune that it's funny because I always tend to want to gravitate towards my octave mandolin because that instrument is very much that's my
part of you by now.
Yeah, exactly. But it was fun to kind of experiment with a different bouzouki octave mandolin sound on one song, and so that was cool. And then he played piano and drums and bass and guitars and a whole slew of things. And then we had our friend Sean Pelton, who's a great drummer, come in on a couple songs and play drums. But I mostly stuck to guitars and octave mandolin, and then there's one song with Alheimer banjo.
Oh, cool.
As well.
So were there any guitars of his that you just wanted to sneak out of the studio or find one of your own?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think he had this little, there was an Epiphone guitar. I think I'm holding it in a photo that I feel like I posted on Instagram a while ago. Maybe I just posted it in a story or something. But a hollow body Epiphone. I'm really bad with remembering years and names of specifics of guitars, but I could find out. And there were so many. It was cool one day when I was actually playing my octave mandolin on a song he pulled, my capo was in my case or something. We were kind of working quickly, and I was like, oh, I need to get my capo for this. And it's like, here, use this one. And it was a capo that Johnny Cash had actually gifted to him.
Oh, wow.
Like, kind of gold capo. And he was like, this is a special one, and handed it to me. And I was like, whoa. So that was a fun memory. A lot of really great musical vibes in his studio. And, you know, it's in the bottom floor of his house. So it felt very relaxed, but also very focused, because our schedule was working from noon to 6 p.m. every day from Monday through Friday when I was not on tour. And so I had never worked in the studio like that before in such a structured manner. But I mean, we were working nonstop when we were there, and it made me like not ever tire of the songs, because when you put a cutoff time, in the past, I've sort of been in the studio hours and hours, and you're kind of always working and always there, and your ears can kind of grow fatigued sometimes. And I found that working this way helped me stay inspired and love the songs kind of throughout the whole process.
That's fantastic. Well, one thing we do on the show every time is a discussion of what is getting you through this time. What TV shows, albums, books, whatever it is, what is keeping you sane right now?
Well, TV shows, somehow my boyfriend Jeff and I had both never seen Game of Thrones before. So I will say that was a very well timed thing for us to be able to binge that entire show. We're almost done with it. We're on the 8th season. That's been fun. I've been reading Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, who's the father of James McMurtry. That family, I'm very inspired by them. And their son, James's son, Curtis, is my age, and he's actually opened some shows for me and is a friend. And, yeah, they're great. So I'm loving reading that right now. I've been getting into baking. Not, a lot of people are getting into that right now. It's not unique, but it's something I've always, yeah, exactly. It's something I've always wanted to do. And I think being on tour a lot, I've been intimidated by the sourdough starter, because, it's something that you have to feed on a regular basis. And I figured that didn't really go well with touring and being gone a lot. So I have been feeding, I successfully made a sourdough starter from scratch. And I made my first 2 loaves last week. So I'm going to make some more later today, I think. And then just some gardening and being outside, as much as I can without, being in proximity of other people. Just merely sitting on the step of the house with the sun is, that the simplicity of that goes a long way, I find.
Oh, yeah. So I made some strawberry jelly that would be very good with your sourdough bread.
Ooh, homemade strawberry jelly.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That was fun. So we'll be joined here in a minute by Michael Mando to do our toast. But as we're waiting on him, we've got a couple questions from the audience here. Like, will the recorded Blue Heron Suite songs be released in the near future?
I can't say near future, but definitely they will be released at some point. I still don't have a timeline on that, unfortunately, but it's so special to me how many people have been commenting on how much they love that music. And for those that don't know, it's a piece that there's a great festival at Mass MoCA in Massachusetts every year called Fresh Grass. And they've started commissioning other artists to play at the festival to write an original piece of music to premiere at the festival. And they asked me to do that in 2017, and I wound up writing this piece called the Blue Heron Suite, which was inspired by my time in Port Aransas, Texas, kind of my whole life, and then also blue herons. So it is coming, but I just don't quite have a timeline for it yet. It is recorded, though.
There's also a question about a good octave mandolin brand that you would recommend for new players.
I mean, I love my Fletcher Brock. It's really, kind of my go-to. It's been like I said earlier, my soulmate of an instrument for a long time. I think that Fletcher probably has a hefty wait list at this point, but if you're really, really passionate about the octave mandolin, I really would have to direct you to him because I think he does great work. And I don't think that Collings is my other sort of soulmate brand, because I grew up about 20 minutes from the Collings factory in Central Texas. But I don't think they make an octave mandolin yet. They make a tenor guitar, which is great. But I think Weber, maybe for more of a starter thing, I think Weber makes good octave mandolins. So, yeah.
Cool. And then people are asking, of all your albums besides the new one, do you have a favorite?
Oh, man. Well, the new one is definitely my favorite. But I mean, I think Undercurrent, because I think that's kind of when I got to a point with being in the recording studio where I felt like there was less of a separation between like, okay, I'm stepping up to the mic now and I'm doing this, but like there's a learning curve with getting comfortable in the studio and learning how to make the studio suited to what you need for the song. And so I think it kind of took me until Undercurrent to sort of be able to feel like it was more of a direct kind of just representation of my soul and the songs, and just being kind of more transparent within a recorded setting. So, but I'm proud of them all in different ways.
That's great. Well, we are waiting on Michael Mando. We had him on the line and can't seem to get him back on here. So, Michael, if you're listening, connect back in and we'll get you on the line. But in the meantime, we'll get ready for our toast.
What are you drinking? I'm drinking an Americano.
Americano, okay. I'm drinking a Wild Heaven Saison.
Yes.
That just came in a low-fill can from a friend of mine, so it is a beautiful beer.
Nice.
So, today is Earth Day. I would love to raise a glass to everyone who has been working tirelessly for the last many years on behalf of trying to make this a place that we can live for the long haul. All those activists out there, I would love to toast them today.
Cheers.
Cheers. How about you?
Well, I would have to ditto that remark. I love that we're doing this on Earth Day. But also I think I want to, raise our glass to all of the people that are working tirelessly to feed people right now. I think Feeding America is one organization that I've been reading about is doing great work. I think, I feel a lot of us are fortunate to be able to have enough food during this time, and some people are not so fortunate. So I've been thinking a lot about those people who are doing so much work to put food in people's mouths right now. So cheers to all of them.
Cheers. Amen. All right. Looks like we've got Michael back.
All right.
There he is. Hey, Michael.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. I'm so sorry. I've been having trouble with the internet.
Oh.
You guys are close. Let me get my glass. 1 sec.
All right. I'm gonna refill mine.
Here goes, Sarah. I'm gonna catch your interview, your song as soon as I'm off of the
Awesome.
podcast. I can't wait to hear it.
Oh, thank you.
All right, so Michael, we've been toasting all of the Earth Day activists since today's Earth Day, and so many people around Nashville. Who would you like us to toast to today?
Since you guys have done the Earth and the nurses and everything, let's do single parents.
Amen. Yes.
Yeah.
To single parents, we know it is not easy for you guys right now, and we're thinking of you. Cheers.
God bless you guys. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, Sarah, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for
And
having me.
I cannot wait for the full album to be out. And best of luck.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's great chatting with you.
You too.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Sarah.
Bye.
So, Michael,
How are you, Josh?
doing great. Another season of Breaking Bad under your belt?
Better Call Saul. Yes,
I
sir.
mean, sorry. Yeah, of course.
Everyone does the same thing.
I
Don't worry
know.
about it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I've loved this season, and I have to say, every episode, just hoping you and Kim are still alive at the end. It's funny because so many of the characters are in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, so we know their futures and their fates. But for
Right.
you, for Nacho Varga, it's just every time he's on screen, it's tense. But
I know it's brilliant writing. It's the writing is just wonderful, and the outpouring of love that people have towards the character and what he represents is so heartwarming. And I feel so blessed to be chosen to play that part. It's just great.
so, you've been playing this for several seasons now. You've come to know this character, and I'm sure he's become kind of a special part of you. Do you see this as a long time? We left him. I don't want to spoil anything, but we left him in kind of dire straits. You think we're gonna see Nacho Varga for a while?
Oh my God! So this is I don't know. I hope so, guys. If you haven't seen season 5, block your ears for about 30 seconds, and when I put my hand like this, you can unblock. So it's crazy, We end the season 5 with him. Don Eladio wants him to run things in New Mexico. The Salamancas want him dead. Gus Fring wants him under his thumb, or he's willing to kill him, and his father wants him to turn himself in. It's just unbelievable. You've got like the most powerful forces pointing against him, and all he wants to do is the right thing and save his father's life. So I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I can tell you I think season 6 is going to be one for the ages. So we'll do this. You guys
Do that. All right. Spoiler free
Yeah.
from here on out. So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little? I mean, the first time I ever saw you was on Orphan Black, playing Vic, and so that was about 2013. It was about a year later you got approached for this role. Can you talk about how that sort of changed life and how you got that role in the beginning?
Well, I was really lucky. I started my career really kind of I had an unusual start. I started in the theater, and then I got a video game that went viral. I played a
Far Cry
performance-
3.
Yeah, and I do the face, the body, and the voice, and I actually co-created that with Ubisoft, and we did a movie called The Far Cry Experience that got like 10 million views, and I got known as an actor through that character. And John Fawcett, who ran Orphan Black, saw that performance and casted me in Orphan Black. And the writers in Breaking Bad had seen Orphan Black and invited me to audition. So I really got Better Call Saul off of Orphan Black.
Hmm. Which was an amazing show in its own right.
It was a fantastic show, and to help launch that show, it is something that'll always be dear to me, because when we were doing that show, we were these Canadian actors. I mean, I know people like Tat have been around for a very long time, but I was kind of new to the scene. And when we found out that like she was going to the Golden Globes and stuff, we were like mind blown. For me, it was like I was like, "You're going to be hanging out with this and this guy," and I was like, I couldn't believe that people knew this show that we were making. It was really unheard of for me at the time, and then to leave that and go to Breaking Bad's universe was just like an unbelievable thing for me.
Well, Vince Gilligan seems like a great person to work for. I've gotten to interview him before, and such a creative mind, what he's done with the show. But you also have this amazing cast around you. Can you tell us a little bit of life on the set with people like Jonathan Banks and just everybody on that cast?
Unbelievable. I can tell you this. I can tell you Peter Gould is our showrunner, and Peter Gould ran the whole season. You know, he was the head of the writers' room. And to everybody's happy prayers, Vince is back for season 6. So we can't wait for that to happen. It's going to be crazy because Vince is going to be in the room now again. So we're excited for that. Working with Banks is, how do I say this? Jonathan's been acting twice as long as I've been on planet Earth. And if you put that in terms, you realize like what this guy must have seen, that I'm just kind of starting my career really in the sense of like internationally. And he's been doing it for like 50, 60 years, you know. Banks, I remember once we did a scene and he took me aside and he said, "Kid, I know you're good. The director knows you're good. The network, everybody here knows you're talented and that you're good. But you yourself don't know it." And he said, "Until you believe it, you'll never sleep at night and you'll never enjoy yourself." And he said, "Don't wait till you're 70 to relish in this opportunity. Don't beat yourself up for things when you can do it with a smile and do it happily. And you'll have a longer career." And to be honest with you, you know, it broke my heart because I said to myself, how does he know that it can be so painful to go home alone in your hotel room after doing a scene and get lost in the minutia of the character and stuff? So that's a lesson that I learned from Banks and that I try to apply everywhere. It's not easy, but I try to apply it.
Yeah. I got to speak to him once, and you know, he just brings this gravitas to any moment that he's in. But when I was talking to him, he was talking about just how appreciative of the Breaking Bad role. This was before Better Call Saul, and just how he'd been waiting his life for this role and what he brings to it. But I agree with him. You're amazing in this show. Nacho Varga is such a it's a character that you just care so deeply about that it causes you this anxiety, which is a beautiful thing. You want to be able to care about the characters on a show, and even in a show like, I think that's one of the things that makes this whole, you know, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul universe great, is that you have these flawed characters who still make you care about them so much.
It's brilliant, you know, the way they write. They're so courageous in the way that they write and daring. You know, that's what I love about it so much, is they're pushing the boundaries and they're making you care for people that you don't think you should care for at the beginning. Like if you look at like the character of Nacho, you know, he starts off as your typical gangster. You think this guy's gonna be motivated by everything that these types of characters are going to be motivated by: money, power, influence, self-interest. And he becomes iconoclastic sort of halfway through the arc of the show, and he becomes almost led by classic hero intentions, which is you know, unselfish, wanting to save his father's life at the cost of his own life, and wanting to get out of the cartel, wanting to protect the innocent, wanting to start over, even if it meant no money, no power, and no influence. And he wants that when he's being offered all of that, which is so fascinating. You know, it's exciting.
That's fantastic. Well, acting is not the only thing you do. You are about to launch your music career. You've got a single out. It sounds great. There's a link. People can go check it out after this is done. That would be awesome. But tell us about how that happened.
Man, it was like really like a series of unbelievable events. I was in New York. I've been writing music since I was a child, but it was something that I did personally. It was never something that I released publicly, you know. And let me charge my battery just in case. I'm looking and I see that I'm gonna plug my phone, my laptop, just a second. Sorry, guys. This
No
won't be long.
problem. That's a beautiful painting behind you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. This isn't my place. It's Airbnb. I got stuck in Montreal because of COVID, and this is the people's place. It is a beauty jazz trio,
Yeah.
triplet. But so I was in New York, and I was speaking to this wonderful woman, and she asked me if I had any hobbies and stuff, and I said, I don't know why I said it at the time. Must have been because of the fact I was in New York. I told her that I write music for fun, and she said, why don't you meet my husband? So when I went to their house and I went to their basement waiting for her husband to come down, there was like 50 of the most beautiful guitars I've ever seen in my life. And one of those guitars had a really, really interesting shape. It had like an arrow and it was the color purple.
Oh,
So he walks down and he sees me kind of eyeing the guitar, and I go, "Is this what I think it is?" And he goes, "Yep, this is Prince's guitar." I go, "Did you know Prince? I mean, what's your relationship?" And he goes, "Oh, I play with Prince. I've been playing with him for 10 years now. I tour with Prince." And I go, I couldn't believe it. And then he goes, "Do you mind if my friend joins us?" So his friend comes down, and he's the pianist of Madonna's pianist. So I've got Prince's guitarist and Madonna's pianist, and they're like among the first people in the world to hear something that I've written. And Fish, who I've only met a few times in my life, says to me, "I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm not going to introduce your music to anybody because I think you should sing it yourself." So I go into his little closet and I record the song. And I'm at a coffee shop with my friend, Craig Olejnik, who's a fellow Canadian actor. And his earphones don't work. So I play him the song on my laptop. And I got to put the volume up because there's a bit of wind in LA. And this woman turns around and says, "Is that you singing?" I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "You should meet my husband. He's a producer." I go, "Okay." She gives me his number. I don't know why I don't look up this guy or anything like that. But I'm watching a movie. I have an appointment with him the next morning. And I'm watching a movie that night. And in the movie, this guy who's on a date with a girl asks her, "What's the hit song on the day you were born?" So she tells him the hit song in the world. I thought that's really interesting. I'm going to look up what's the hit song the day I was born. I go to their house. As soon as I get in, before meeting him, I ask if I can use their restroom. She says, "Please do." In the restroom, there's this gold discs, and it says, "We are the world." And it's Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. And the name of the person I'm meeting, Valgaray, is on there. And I'm going, what did I just walk into? When I go to his studio, he has this beautiful studio in his home. On his speaker, there's a Grammy. And the Grammy is for the #1 hit song, The Day I Was Born.
which was what?
Betty Davis's Eyes.
Oh my God.
Valgaray produced that song. And I really couldn't believe it. And that whole summer in 2017, we ended up working together on music. He really encouraged me to release, and I wasn't really ready. I just felt like, I don't know why music is something that feels so much more personal than acting to me. I have no idea why yet, but it's just this thing that I never want to release. And then I found out, unfortunately, last year that my father had liver cancer while we were shooting season 5. And it was like stage 4. And it was really hard for me to play a character that was trying to save his father's life, and then to come home and deal with that situation and be helpless, knowing my father's in another country going through this while I was shooting this. So I used to take walks at night in Albuquerque, and everybody there recognizes us because the show shoots there. So I'd wear a hat and glasses and walk around at night. And I saw these street musicians next to an open bar that were playing music. And I don't know why I was inclined at that particular moment in my life to go sit with them. I bought them all pizza and beer, and we just rocked it for like 4 hours. And the people from the bar who were right next door would come out and sort of watch us put on a show for them. And I went home that night and I felt like, I can't explain it, but this makes me feel good. I need to do this. So I wrote this EP, and the first song is the Wild One.
That is an amazing story.
Well, thanks, man.
That's incredible. So, did you happen to catch the Prince tribute last night?
I did not. No, I saw it on Twitter and Instagram this either this tonight, or I haven't seen it yet, but I plan on watching. I think Prince and Michael Jackson really, did something with music that very few people were able to do.
Oh,
And of course
absolutely.
that comes from James Brown. James Brown is so important to that, and you got a couple of cats before that, but James Brown, Stevie Wonder, you can hear it, and then you got Michael and Prince who just opened it up, and so I definitely want to check it out.
Well, that is a great musical heritage to be tapping into right there.
Of course, man, the
So,
best.
so you have a plan for an EP. What's the sort of broader plan on the music side for you? Do you want to
So,
you start playing clubs and see where
yeah,
this goes?
I come from the theater, and having started a film and TV career, and thank God it's going so well, and people love the character and the show. But at the same time, I have a desire to connect with people, and you don't really, and even though I love film and TV, you don't get that connection with people the way you do in the theater. And I have a desire to go back to the theater, and a desire to sing and talk to people and look people in the eyes and share, and have their energy feed me, and vice versa. So that's definitely on my to-do list. And I've got all of Celine Dion's musicians on this EP. Every time she went back from tour, her musicians went into the studio, and we kind of rocked it. So they're on the three songs of the EP. It's a trilogy, part one, two, and three. It's a story that's being told in the EP.
Well, that makes sense for you. So, where was this recorded? Is this L.A.? Is this New York?
So this is recorded in Montreal.
Montreal. Okay.
Yeah, I came back from the Seth Meyers show to visit my father, and that very morning we had finished recording. We had finished recording all the musicians before I left, and I was going to lay the vocals at the end.
Hmm.
We had like a kind of like a draft vocal on the track, and I was
Yeah.
going to do the final vocals. That morning that I got back from New York, I was heading to the studio to start recording my vocals, and I get a call saying, "You can't come. You've got to be quarantined for 2 weeks."
Oh, crap.
And it was like you're in the car, and you're about to turn on the car, and you get a call, and it goes, "You can't," and you think it's a joke. You're like, "Come on, man! Like, I've been waiting for this moment for like a whole year." And they go, "You can't come." And then I find out the studio has to close down. And I'm going, okay, maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe I shouldn't release music. But at the same time, the other voice is going, everything that you've been through says you should release it. So how do you marry these two thoughts together? So thanks to my business partner and I, she encouraged me to turn this little room in this apartment into a recording booth. So we bought all these kind of stuff to put on the walls for
Hmm.
the acoustics. And then we rented from the studio a sound card and a preamp. We rented a microphone. And then I started taking Pro Tools classes and Logic classes online.
So you recorded this in this Airbnb
In
that you're
this,
sting in right now?
yes,
Oh
yes.
my.
And I don't, I'm scared that the owners of this place find out and then ask me for a cut of the album. But yeah, this is all recorded. I was the one pressing record, and then going to the mic, and then coming back, and then I had to learn Pro Tools and get all the fades and arrange it myself, because I was initially working with Pierre Messier, who's a wonderful musician, and I had to do it all myself, and with his help through Skype. Everything was done through the internet, like even the mixing and the mastering was all listened to through technology.
Michael, this is the greatest story. The from the guitar, Fish's guitar, just running into him, through how this song came to be. This is fantastic. Thank you so
It,
much
it,
for sharing it.
Thank you, man. I just feel like, I think the lesson that I'd like people to get out of this is, and this is something that I've struggled with my whole life, and I'm starting to understand more and more. The, obstacles don't mean no. When things are hard, it doesn't mean you should stop. And if you fail, especially if you fail, it doesn't mean that you're not good at something. you know, like that's a lesson that I learned. I learned, you know, when the road is closed, it doesn't mean you shouldn't cross. It means you should find another way. And that to me is the biggest lesson that I've learned with this.
Well, I think that's a lesson we could all take to heart right now.
Yeah.
So the final thing, the thing that we ask everybody on this show is, what is getting you through this quarantine? What TV shows, books, albums, whatever? What are you finding is keeping you sane right now?
I actually, you know, I have to say I am a fan of Better Call Saul, and I've just watched the finale last night, and I love that show. It's a great show. It's greatly written, and the cast is great. So I watched that. I've watched the first 2 episodes of The Last Dance on Netflix, the Michael Jordan documentary, and the Chicago Bulls, Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman. I love that era of basketball so much. And I was a kid watching that, and to see it again and to hear about it, I love that. And what else have I been doing? And music, really. I've just been like diving into music as much as I can.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Congrats on another season of Better Call Saul, and congrats on your first single out in the world right now.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure speaking to you, my friend.
You too.
God bless you, brother.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care, man.